did see the end of communism. I go over there to see friends that I had met on before the internet. There was the ARPANET, and I got access to that, and I was talking to people all around the world. In Iran, I was talking to people in Russia and Australia. They had their 1%. They had power. They could do anything, get away with anything, you know. So not only there was all this other stuff, everything about your life had this political person. And the government judged what music you could listen to and what kind of cars you could have, if you could have a car. I mean, it was just pretty intense. Russia was like, ooh. Well, it'd be like somebody talking to you about, you know, the backwoods of China right now. You're like, ooh, kind of strange and mysterious. I actually flew from Los Angeles there. I had to fly into London, change planes, and then fly into Moscow on British Air. I get out the plane, I'm walking through this tunnel, and at the end is a soldier with a Kalashnikov. That's how I met coming into Russia. So now I'm headed into this airport that looks like it was built 100 years before, and this is their Sheremetyevo airport, their fancy airport, but you know, I mean, things are rusted and the floors are all cracked, and I'm like, oh my God. Okay, what did I get myself into? I'm on the streets and this little car is blowing black smoke and hardly running, and we're driving in a city center, and everywhere I go there's guys and military guys. So I'm thinking, holy cow, I mean, this is like kind of scary. I'm not used to all this military presence. And the guy's name is Evgeny, but we called him Eugene because more of an American name. And he goes, don't worry about them. They do road repair, you know, that the army there not only fights, but they also work as farmers. They fix the roads. They're basically cheap labor for the government. When I got into downtown around Red Square, which you see on TV all the time, yeah, which really isn't as big as it looks, there's tanks everywhere. I thought that was kind of a trip. I don't usually go into a downtown and find tanks there. Imagine going out today and going outside your place and seeing tanks roll down the street, and they're trying to decide, should they shoot you or the government? The army was trying to figure that out. So I'm sitting there with all these tanks, and communism, for all the point, is now failing. And I was there for 2 weeks, and I saw tanks driving all the time and all these soldiers coming in and out of town. And I'm like, wow, I'm getting a little nervous. People are taking to the streets and banners that I can't read. I'm not used to that. I haven't seen that since we were in Vietnam. And so as I'm leaving, I'm leaving on Saturday. On Friday, these tanks that were there all went down to their equivalent of the White House. It's called the Eastern White House. And they opened up on it. The head of the Communist Party locked themselves in and shut the door and said, we're not coming out. We're not giving up. And the army decided to side with the people, and they surrounded the building and they started shelling it.
Завтра исполняется 75 лет. Уолл 66-го года отдал всю свою жизнь в борьбе с преступниками. Он задержал десятки бандитов, а сегодня был убит без оружия. Слушай, твои не полегли, они сдохли как собаки, ты понял, нет? Сдохнут столько же, если вы не прекратите свою ерунду. Лучше выходи, надевай себе белую простыню и выходи, понял, нет? Внимание, все сотрудникам милиции. Я, сотрудник милиции, обещаю, что я отомщу за наших ребят, погибших сегодня. Всем защитникам Белого дома. Готовьтесь, гады. Зря ты, парень. Стреляйте их на месте, мужики, стреляйте, не жалейте. Патронов на всех хватит, лупи их.
Besides seeing army there, I saw huge amounts of old women everywhere, carrying little plastic bags because they go shopping every day, and they had one tomato in it. So just everywhere you look, you see these women. And they were from the generation that had no husbands. Most of World War II had nothing to do with the United States. Most of World War II really was between Russia and Germany. Russians lost 20 million men. Another 20 million in civilian losses. Yeah, you see dead bodies all over the place. Yeah, that was another thing. That was something else I saw, a lot of dead bodies. You could see them in parks and stuff. People would just lay down and die. The ones I saw were more like they were homeless or they were old, you know. When I was there the first time, I went to the exchange, right, and turned in my dollars to get rubles. They canceled money. They said, oh, okay, as of tomorrow, all rubles no longer good. And the reason is the Russian government says so many other countries have rubles. Ukraine, Czechoslovakia, Poland, everybody's full of rubles. We don't want them turning it in. So we're just going to cancel it. They can keep them. When I'm there, I wanted to call back to the States, and I was told, oh, by the way, somebody from the government will probably listen to your call. And I'm like, really? Yeah, and the place might be bugged because they know you're here. They may have come and put a bug in. And do you know why the government did that? Why these people put up with that? Safety. I did feel the tension in the air. How do you not feel tension when people are talking to the soldiers like, please don't shoot us? You know, there is tension about that whole thing. Because, you know, when you're in the military, which you haven't been, but when you go in the military, the first thing you do is you have to swear allegiance to the country and to the government. You know? Well, in this case, all the people are pissed at the government. I drove very close to it, but you can imagine they shut all the roads down. It's not like I could walk up. I was at the Eastern White House, I'm going to say 3 days before that, when they were lining all the tanks up, and they had Army soldiers marching around in front of the building. I saw people yelling at the Army guys, mostly the women. They were just screaming at them, how dare you come in here? What are you doing? I'm going to tell your mother. No, I already had tickets, you know, so I had tickets, and the money got canceled, but they gave us 24 hours. So I went down and stood in this big, long line, and I got like 35 cents on the dollar, you know, so I cashed in 1,000, I got like 300 back, right? I noticed on the radio that the number one group they were playing on the radio was the Beatles. That the Russians visualized Europe and the U.S. of having figured it out, and they wanted that lifestyle. It was a pretty non-violent revolution, as I indicated. Yeah. It was just, the only reason they shelled the White House is that the communists just refused to give up. And there had to be a defining moment. And these guys just armed themselves and took over the Capitol building. As soon as the Army decided they'd side with the people and not with the communists, at that moment, it was over.